Hey everyone, I'm Princess Link, and welcome back to Metal Gear Solid 2. Chapter 10. The first task was to find the Struts node, which was easily located at the far end of the dining hall near the lift. Raiden downloaded the local map, and immediately his spectrometer indicated the presence of C4 nearby on the same level. Raiden cursed silently and noted that the heaviest concentration of the green grid was just outside the dining hall, south of the kitchen, in a small room off the corridor. He followed the trail and found himself standing outside the woman's washroom. Raiden didn't think it mattered if he knocked or not. The washroom was empty. He looked under the sinks and then searched each stall around the toilets. Well, if it's got stalls, then no, you don't have to knock, dumbass. Nothing. Raiden checked the spectrometer again. The bomb was definitely in the washroom. What was he missing? He checked the stalls again and looked on the back side of the doors. Still nothing. Puzzled, he faced the sinks and mirrors. Then he saw it. In the mirror's reflection, the pack of C4 was clearly visible on the ceiling above one of the toilets in the stalls. He hadn't bothered to look up when he'd been in there before. As Stillman had suggested, he needed to begin to think differently about where the bomber might have hidden explosives. Raiden entered the stall, climbed onto the toilet seat, shook the canister Stillman had given him, and sprayed the C4. As soon as it was covered within the fine white mist, the glowing diode faded out. He got down and dialed Stillman on his codec. Raiden here. I took care of the C4 in Strut C. The ceiling of the woman's bathroom was set to blow. Stillman grunted. That's not like him. Anything wrong? Maybe. Pliskin just called in too. He's already deactivated a couple of them. He's reported other locations too, and none of them are effective demolition points. What do you mean? It means they wouldn't be the best places to choose if you wanted to destroy this place. I say, are you saying they don't plan on blowing the shell up? It certainly seems that way. So far, we haven't seen anything but a waste of good explosives. Unless, of course, we're missing something. A trap? He couldn't have overlooked the fact that I would be called into this. There's something going on. Look, just keep going with what you're doing. Let's see what turns up. Roger that. Raiden signed off and went for the door, but he froze when he heard the sound of boots clomping through the outside corridor. They came closer and were just outside the washroom when they stopped. Raiden moved behind the door and flattened himself against the wall. The doors started to open, and Raiden realized his reflection could be seen in the mirror. He ducked to his squatting position just as the guard looked inside. Raiden was hidden behind a door and couldn't be seen as long as the sentry didn't come all the way inside. Raiden held his breath. The guard took a cursory look at the empty washroom and left. Raiden waited until the sound of his boots faded into the distance, and then he stood and peeked out the door. All clear. He made his way to the roof, carefully avoiding traversing through open areas, and crossed the BC connecting bridge. Raiden figured the best way to cover the big shell was to move counterclockwise. Since he'd already accessed the nodes in Struts A and B, it seemed to be the logical route. Raiden returned to Strut B's transformer room, where the hard experience with the vampire had taken place. The SEALs' bodies were still there. The blood all over the floor and electrical banks was congealing. Raiden evaded the spots and checked the spectrometer. Once again, the green grid pinpointed the location of C4, inside a cabinet housing circuitry panels. Raiden rushed down an aisle toward the destination, turned a corner, and came face to face with a Russian sentry. The surprise on the guard's face was priceless. Despite Raiden's qualms about bomb disposal, he had gone through extensive VR training to handle a situation exactly like this one. Before the guard could react, Raiden instinctively performed a precise butterfly kick. He spun his body horizontally in a circle, jumped with one leg, and kicked with the other. The blow landed on the guard's chin. The cartwheel-like maneuver effectively knocked the man back a few feet, giving Raiden the extra second he needed to land on his feet, regain his balance, and deliver a body blow to the guy's midsection. Raiden caught the unconscious foe before he fell to the ground, dragged him off to the side, and left him there. Hopefully, there wouldn't be any more of them. This time, Raiden effortlessly spotted the C4 behind the door of the circuit panel closet. He froze the device and called Stillman again. Okay, I've taken care of the Strep B explosive. It was in the transformer room. Again, Stillman expressed doubts. This is all wrong. This is something only an amateur would do. What do you mean? All the bombs that have been found so far don't appear to be in the right kinds of locations. And the quantity of explosives isn't sufficient either. Even Fat Man can make mistakes, right? No, there's something else going on here. Just get a move on. I've got a bad feeling about this. I feel sorry for him. I'll tell Pliskin. Just hurry. A lone guard patrolled the bridge between struts A and B. Raiden stood just outside the sentry's line of vision and waited until he turned to walk the other way. As he'd done on the earlier trip, Raiden slipped over the rail, hung by his hands, and shimmied across the bridge to the other side. He climbed up, peered over the rail to make sure the guide wasn't looking, and quietly jumped onto the bridge. Within seconds, he was in strut A's stairwell. The pump room was just as Raiden had left it. At first, the spectrometer didn't indicate the presence of C4, so Raiden made his way to the lift. Perhaps the explosive had been placed on a lower level where Stillman had predicted. He crept from cover to cover, not wanting to repeat the recent experience with the guide in the transformer room. He was almost to the elevator when he came across the body of a SEAL who'd been shot to death. His backpack had been flung open and contents had spilled over the floor. Raiden paused long enough to see if there was anything useful. He found a couple of chaff grenades, 3 fragmentation grenades, 2 stun grenades, and a cartridge of darts. On closer examination, Raiden determined that the darts were tranquilizers. He pocketed all the items. The tranquilizers would fit in his M9 and might come in handy for subduing enemies silently. Finally, Raiden reached into the bottom of the pack and found 2 boxes of SOCOM ammunition. Perfect. It was his lucky day. Raiden took a few moments to replace the SOCOM's magazine and store the rest of the ammo in his pack. He positioned the M9's holster on his back and stuck the SOCOM on his belt so that it would be his default weapon. Somehow, he felt a little more confident with the extra armaments. Before entering the elevator, he checked the spectrometer one more time. Now the green grid appeared at a corner of the monitor toward the south. Raiden followed this scent and soon found a door marked with a 1, level 1 security. The pan card Stillman had given him came in handy. The room had a low ceiling and was filled with pipes of all sizes. Raiden figured these were water, steam, and AC, and heating conduits for the shell. Water, steam, AC, and heating. Following the map on the spectrometer, Raiden dropped to his knees, crawled under the conglomeration of pipes, and snaked along until he found the box of C4 stuck on the floor beneath a heavy steam pipe. He quickly used the coolant, confirmed that the explosive was deactivated, and then wormed his way out of the room. Raiden returned to Strut A's roof and scanned the sky. He spotted several police and military choppers in the distance, keeping the vigil on the plant as before. The sun wasn't much higher than it had been when he was last on Strut A. It seemed as if a lifetime had passed since he infiltrated the big shell, but in reality it wasn't midday yet. Another cipher was buzzing along the AEF connecting bridge. It bobbed gently as it hung in the air, waiting to spot an intruder and broadcast the info to whomever was watching. Raiden scrutinized the roofs and bridges within his range of vision to confirm that he was alone. He drew the SOCOM, aimed at the spybot, and fired. The cipher exploded into 100 pieces, leaving behind a small puff of black smoke. It was now safe to cross the bridge. Raiden reported back to Stillman. "You're doing well, Raiden," the older man said. 3 down, 3 to go. But I still don't like what I'm hearing about the placement of those bombs. Pliskin's nearly done, and he hasn't found a single one in a place where I suspected it might be. I'm at Strut F now. Should I continue? Of course, but I have to figure out what Fat Man's up to. Let me know if you have any problems. Strut F's stairwell led to a 2-level warehouse that was full of boxes, crates, barrels, and unused machinery. Upon entering, Raiden immediately heard voices. At least 3 men were in the vast space, but he couldn't see them. He continued down the stairs to the lower level and slipped inside. He immediately pressed his back against a stack of crates to avoid being seen by one of the guards, who happened to be a mere 10 feet away. Biden waited until the man walked in the opposite direction before he moved around the crates and into a passageway lined by heavy machinery. The node was straight ahead. Biden shot for it, stooped, and accessed the map. The spectrometer indicated that there was indeed a bomb planted in the warehouse somewhere in the middle of the room. Biden skirted away from the node and hid behind another stack of boxes. He removed the tranquilizer darts from his pack, emptied the M9, and loaded the magazine with the darts. He didn't want to kill anyone if he didn't have to. Putting an enemy to sleep was good enough for him. Biden emerged from his hiding place with the M9 in hand, and then crept along the aisle to the middle of the room. The spectrometer pointed to a large grouping of boxes, arranged in a square and stacked almost as high as the ceiling. Obviously, a forklift was needed to access the top. Biden eyed a catwalk over the B2 level of the warehouse and got an idea. The operative made his way back to the stairwell and climbed to the upper level. From there, he could look out over the warehouse. He spotted another guard patrolling near the fortress of boxes, so he took aim with the M9 and fired. The man went down quickly and silently. Biden found the rung ladder leading to the catwalk, scaled it like a monkey, and positioned himself on the grid directly above the boxes. He swung down and hung onto the catwalk with his hands, feet dangling. It wasn't a long drop to the top of the boxes, maybe 7 feet. He released his grip and landed lightly on top of the arrangement. Biden quickly scanned the room to make sure no one had seen him, and then climbed down into the fortress of boxes. The C4 was on the floor. He quickly sprayed the explosive, scaled the boxes to the top again, and then simply ascended the outside of the configuration to the B1 floor. The guide he tranquilized lay there in the aisle, so Biden picked him up underneath the arms and dragged him out of sight behind some barrels. But the man's radio spitted. 452, respond. Biden froze. Sending reinforcements. Over. Great, time to leave. Biden rushed to the stairwell, but heard the sound of running boots. He ducked back into the warehouse, looked frantically for a place to hide, and then scampered to an alcove with a closed door marked Armory 3. He tried it, but of course it was locked. It was a number 3, which meant he needed a level 3 security guide to get inside. Pliskin had one, but the soldier was in another part of the building. Biden heard the footsteps rushing closer, so the operative skirted across the floor to an array of heavy machinery. A forklift with a large open crate sat atop its fork sat in the middle of the aisle. The crate was full of straw. Biden climbed onto the vehicle and eased himself into the crate. As the guards poured into the warehouse, he quickly covered himself with straw and waited. The men called back and forth to each other. Biden heard them running up and down the aisles, overturning boxes and smashing crates. At one point, a few pairs of boots fit. And beside the forklift. Biden figured as long as they didn't find the tranquilized guide, he'd be okay. It took nearly 10 minutes, but the men finally gave up and left the warehouse. Biden waited another 60 seconds to be sure, and then emerged from the straw. The place was quiet. He climbed out, hit the floor running, and made his way to the stairwell. Strut F's roof was empty. Biden moved cautiously to the EF connecting bridge, saw no guards or ciphers, and began to cross. The codec burst on. Be careful! It was a voice Biden didn't recognize. The codec's monitor was blank. Who is this? There are Claymore mines on the bridge. Stealth-equipped Claymore mines. Invisible to the naked eye. The voice was modified by a device that could disguise itself electronically. Identify yourself, Biden demanded. Just call me Deep Throat. Biden blinked. Deep Throat? You mean from Shadow Moses? He'd studied the files from that incident and knew that Deep Throat was the code name used by a cyborg ninja, Gray Fox, who'd helped Solid Snake accomplish his mission. Call me Mr. X, then. X gonna give it to you. I don't know the rest of the song. Mr. X now, is it? Why would it matter if I called you Deep Throat? Never mind about that. Why'd you contact me? Let's just say I'm one of your fans. The codec went dead. Biden immediately buzzed the colonel. Someone calling himself Mr. X just contacted me, Colonel. Do you know anything about it? No, the officer answered. Whoever it wasn't a mistransmission. The transmission was sent from within the big show. He called himself Deep Throat at first. Do you think? I caught that part too, but the possibility of it being true is none. Grey Fox was the one who used that alias and Shadow Moses, and he's dead. Is it an enemy trap? Could be. Exercise extreme caution. Raiden signed off and scanned the EF bridge. If they really were claymores, he wouldn't be able to see them. He dug into his pack for the thermal goggles and put them on. His surroundings immediately appeared filtered through an infrared field. The idea was that electronic and living materials would be displayed brightly as solid images. He began to cross the bridge and instantly spotted a claymore. I read that part already, okay? He'd been trained to disable landmines of that type. They used a directional sensor that exploded when an upright target entered his forward field of vision. What was particularly handy about his training was that he could disarm it with a flick of a switch and then pick up the mine, carry it, and use it elsewhere on the enemy. Raiden did so with 3 claymores that he found on the bridge. He did not have room in his pack to carry more, so he simply deactivated the remaining 2 and tossed them off the bridge into the water. Rose called him on the codec. Jack, do you remember the day we met? What now? Raiden asked himself. What's your game? I'm kind of busy here, Rose. You're right. Sorry. But I do remember. It was right after I was transferred to New York. There were all these tourists around you in front of the Federal Hall. Rose giggled. A group of middle-aged Japanese ladies came up and asked me what building it was that King Kong was climbing in the movie. You pointed out the World Trade Center, but the ladies weren't convinced. But the tourists were talking about the black and white King Kong. I said it was the Chrysler Building. You hadn't seen the black and white original. I just vaguely remembered the pictures, and then you showed up and started mouthing off. You were like, no, it's the Empire State. I said the Chrysler Building was in Godzilla. She laughed. We started arguing, and I forgot all about the tourists. I was insisting that I was right, and that you were doing the same. The next thing we knew, the Japanese woman had gone away, and we ended up going to the skyscraper museum to see who had the better memory. We argued all the way to Battery Park, and for nothing, since the museum was closed. We went our separate ways from the museum, and then I found you again by coincidence in the Foxhound base corridor. An amazing coincidence that we were actually working at the same place. Yeah, a coincidence. That night, we went up to the top of the Empire State. It was so beautiful. I could look down on the Chrysler Building from 120 stories above ground. I felt overwhelmed. I didn't care anymore who was right. And that was our first date. We watched King Kong in your apartment a bunch of times that night. Didn't sleep till morning. Rose sighed audibly. If it weren't for that coincidence, we wouldn't be together. Raiden noted. I know. Rose quickly changed her tone. I'm sorry, Jack. I'm taking up your time again. What? Take care. She signed off. Raiden shook his head. Every guy he ever knew said women were impossible to understand. He now counted himself as a member of the club. The roof of Stretty was a heliport. Raiden emerged from the connecting bridge and heard voices not far away. He hugged the stairwell structure and inched his way to the corner to get a better view of the space. A woman dressed in tiger-striped camo stood near the railing on the roof. She had a radio in her hand and was in the middle of a conversation with a man. The woman had short blonde hair, was fit and muscular, and spoke with a Russian accent. The man on the other end of the radio sounded American. I've taken care of that annoying fly, the man said. What's the situation over there? Puzzling, the woman answered. I saw a man dressed like a ninja just now. Ninja? It's the only way to describe it. A kind of cyborg ninja, complete with a sword. What? Are you hiding something from me? She asked. Olga, are you sure it wasn't an Arsenal Tengu? Don't be a fool. Think I wouldn't know the difference? I've never seen field gear like that either. All right, I'll intensify patrols. Anything else? Actually, one more thing. You'll find it hard to believe, though. I saw a man hiding under a cardboard box. Where? On the connecting bridge to Shell 2. The man grunted. So, you believe me this time? She asked, almost taunting. I've seen someone use that box trick before. We'll lay a trap on the shell tube connecting Fidge. Over and out then. The woman and the man called Olga shut off her radio. Vaden drew the SOCOM and stepped out in plain view. Freeze! Olga didn't flinch. She turned toward Vaden and gazed at him as if he were a curious specimen in a zoo. They were about 10 feet apart. They're social distancing. Good job. You must be one of Dead Cell, Vaden said, the gun trained on her. Of course not, she answered. What a thing to say. Put your weapon on the ground. The woman smiled widely. Not a chance. With that, she leaped over the railing, Arabian style. What does that mean? It happened so quickly that Vaden was unable to react. He rushed to the spot and peered over the railing, but there was no trace of the woman in the water below. Who was she? And where the hell did she go? If you like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!